Kicking off the list at number 10, the largest known comet. Comet Bernardelli-Bernstein. What a name right there. Okay, what a find as well, may I add. June 23rd, 2021, so pretty recently, Pedro Bernardinelli was a grad student and researcher. He was originally observing outer solar system objects like trans-Neptunian objects, stuff like that, but thanks to dark matter, he ended up finding this mega comet instead, which is pretty sweet. He's like, sure, I'll take it, let's look into it. So he went to his advisor, a cosmologist named Gary Bernstein, and he told him to look into it. Like to literally look into it. 10 times wider than a typical comet. This thing is huge. Last time it was near our sun was a good 3 million years ago, and now it's back. Well, in 10 years, it'll be close. So get your wishes ready. All you have to do is say the comet's name 3 times fast, and you're set. Good luck. Bernardinelli-Bernstein, Bernardinelli-Bernstein, Bernardinelli-Bernstein. Yes! That's a hard name to say. I was Googling it, and I'm like, oh man, I love your names. Great observation and all, but actually no, that's great. That's a pretty sick name. I would name a comet my last name. McWaters, easy. Number 9, Mimas moon. A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Just kidding, this one's actually really close. It's Saturn, it's right there. Saturn is known for having a plethora of moons. Saturn in total has 82 moons, including this one, Mimas. A moon that looks oddly familiar. Why do I feel like it's gonna just blast us all to smithereens? Why do I feel like that's gonna happen? Is that the Death Star? Is this thing pointing at Earth? Which way is it pointing here? That really matters. Saturn's smallest innermost moon is causing quite the stir here on Earth. About a month ago, researchers discovered that this moon has a bit of a wobble to it, almost like a floating magic 8-ball. Something is sloshing around inside. Its gravitational pull is a little off. It's just grooving around in the solar system, you know? Mima could potentially be housing a liquid ocean. Yep, we got more water in space. It's pretty close too. If that was the case, everything we know about water and ocean life in space would have to be rewritten. Number 8, black hole helix. Imagine peering through a telescope, and then you see this. I would throw up right into my telescope. This is a galactic jet. It shot out of a black hole at the center of the M87 galaxy. It's pretty scary looking. This helix shot out a whopping 8,000 light years. Yeah, it's pretty far. That's so far I can't even fathom how far that is. You know, like my brain won't allow me to really picture that. This sounds like a threat, really, but I'll remind you that the M87 galaxy is 55 million light years away from us, so we're not gonna get any galactic jet on our hands anytime soon. Know what I mean? But just how does something like this happen? Astronomers in New Mexico discovered that this massive jet is caused by a corkscrew-shaped magnetic field. What in the witchcraft? Like what? Like a space undertow made out of gravity. That doesn't sound jarring at all. According to the National Radio Astronomy Observatory, this is the longest magnetic fields ever found in a galactic jet. Which is fine, that's the first time I've heard of that. I'm like, you can take that rain, enjoy it. We're not gonna try and beat you. It's stuff like this where I ask myself why I'm worrying about a phone bill. Humans are so tiny compared to this. It's insane. We don't matter. Hey, number 8, we don't matter. Hit that thumbs up. Number 7, Jupiter's clouds. We've all seen and heard of Jupiter's big red spot. That's just a nightmare in itself. So big, always going, no idea why, can't even think about it. But when NASA's Juno spacecraft passed the Goliath back in 2017, it captured something almost just as interesting, if not more, dare I say. Jupiter's clouds. It feels like you can just put your arm out and touch the silky space sky. It's beautiful, but that's about 20,000 kilometers away. It's also quite scary. This big ball of hydrogen is quite mysterious below these clouds. So far, NASA has found lightning higher up than they ever thought it could go. They've also found constant storms at both the North and South Pole, and winds so powerful that the planet's magnetic fields are literally being moved around. That's how strong the wind is. Your skin would just blow off. You'd be a skeleton just standing there. Beautiful, mysterious, and deadly. We love space on MA10. Number 6, Mars trees. This looks like moldy bread almost. What in the hell? What are we looking at here? Is this actually a real photo from Mars? Are those trees? There's not a chance here. Matt Damon grew potatoes on Mars in the movie The Martian, but I don't think he can grow any pine trees anytime soon. What you're looking at here is still pretty insane. Due to the evaporation of carbon dioxide frost, dark sand is sliding down the frosted side of the dune, so it makes it look like there's trees on the planet Mars. Sun-heated carbon dioxide ice. That's just, I read that and I go, what? What does that even mean? Where do I start with this? We thought we found a giant alien back in 1976 when NASA's Viking 1 flew by and it looked like a face was in the planet. Remember that? It looks like a Jabberwocky, it's just lying getting a suntan. This one here isn't an optical illusion, it's just weird space science. Number 5, smooth moon. When we think of moons in the sky or like how other planets have other moons, we think of them as our own. Just a big ball of cheese in the sky, a big sphere, it's got craters, it's pale, we get it, right? Well, as we've seen so far in this list, some moons can look like the Death Star, and some moons can look like chewed gum, apparently. Saturn's small moon Atlas looks like a UFO. It's not a sphere at all, it literally has the shape of a UFO. How scary is that? NASA's Cassini spacecraft caught this image back in 2017, and it almost looks like two moons have crashed into one another, and then now it has a ring-like edge to it. When new photos came back after discovering this moon way back in 1980, scientists were surprised that this moon is actually really smooth. In 4K, they're like, oh, it's not even the pixels, it's actually really smooth. A smooth moon, you say? Let me take a look here. This little smooth moon in the sky, little pervert. Number 4, dead galaxies. This one sounds scary. Dead galaxies. Guardians of the dead galaxy. New research from NASA, including the Hubble Space Telescope, along with the Atacama Large Millimeter Submillimeter Array in northern Chile, they found 6 different dead galaxies in total. They're all like, that's 1, that's 2, and they're like, hey, we found 4, all dead, horrifying. How does this happen? Let's look into it. These dead galaxies had run out of the cold hydrogen needed to make stars, and without the fuel for new stars, these galaxies were basically running on nothing at that point. It's kind of like when your car battery dies, only this is on a cosmic scale. This discovery led us to new questions we didn't even know we had. Like, what led to these galaxies to die anyways? What happened to all the cold gas in them so early on? These 6 galaxies lived fast and hot lives, but we aren't sure what went wrong quite yet. Lead author and assistant professor of astronomy at the University of Massachusetts, Kate Whitaker, she proposed several potential explanations and gave us insight onto the future of the studies, which she said, did a supermassive black hole in the galaxy's center turn on and heat up all the gas? If so, the gas could still be out there, but now it's just cold. We need Thanos to come back and just, start this fire up. Just a big, someone get a Bic lighter and just go and just light it back up. Alas, new life. Is that Thor? Welcome back. Number 3, solar flares. Our lives literally revolve around the sun. It blesses us with life energy, solar rotation, and most importantly, tan lines, obviously. But sometimes she acts up. Sometimes she gets a little cray-cray. Sometimes she gets a little and then she spurts out lava and scares us all. Sometimes she creates these powerful magnetic fields that create sunspots larger than our entire planet. Yep, like I said, she's moody. This creates a stream of radiation. It's called solar wind. Now, normally this is a beautiful event to see. We have many photos of it now. The northern lights happen because of Earth's magnetic field reacting to this specific radiation. Beautiful, but really scary when you think about it. This past October, a large solar flare was spotted, and then 3 days later, it finally hit Earth. The geomagnetic storm reached category G2, which out of 5 is pretty strong, especially when you look at it as on a planetary scale. The biggest solar event was back in 1859. It's called the Carrington event. It was strong enough to disrupt telegraph communications, even literally shocking some telegraph operators. Like, if that happens again, and it's even stronger this time, we're looking at huge power outages on a massive scale. Imagine talking to someone on your iPhone and it blows up. Right in the middle of Avatar 2, boom, blackout. Life as we know it is now meaningless. We're all crying in public. Number 2, the space crab. Is the multiverse collapsing? What is this? The appropriately named space Crab Nebula was discovered back in 1054. Yeah, way back then, astronomers looked into the sky and saw this new bright star. They saw it during daytime. That's how they knew something was up. What they were observing at the time was a supernova explosion. How spectacular is that? This was when the Crab Nebula was born. It's not too far away either. It's just a mere, 6,500 light years tucked away in the constellation Taurus. If you're a Taurus, you're watching, you're like, oh, no way. I'm a Libra. I'm like, get out of here. What do you know? The image of the space crab here was captured over the course of 3 months. NASA put together 24 exposures captured by, of course, our Hubble. The orange glow we see, those are literally star remains, just large pockets of hydrogen. The interesting part here with the space crab is back in 2005, over the course of 10 Hubble exposures from September to November, these waves can be seen expanding outwards, waves coming from the nebula's pulsar. Space is so scary. We have one moon to worry about here. Meanwhile, all of this is going on in our space neighborhood. I'm terrified. And finally, number 1, mystery wave. More waves coming in hot. Really hot this time around. If you've seen Interstellar, this next one should hit close to home. I'm not a fan of wave pools or waves in general. My stupid head just bobbing around in the ocean, that's peril. That's a nightmare situation. I can't swim too well. I don't know, I'm too lanky. I'm like a piece of seaweed floating around. The largest wave ever seen in the entire solar system, of course I had to save this one for last. On a planet a little closer to the sun, Venus, the pressure in the atmosphere can cause some massive waves. Back in 2015, a Japanese spacecraft zoomed by and caught this phenomena. Usually clouds there will move around 100 meters a second, but these clouds, these massive ripples, stayed in the same place for 4 days. Way above the ground level also. They were just like, huh? and then they got stuck there. Due to a runaway greenhouse effect, temperatures on Venus hit around 460 degrees Celsius. So this wave may have been powerful enough to change the climate for those 4 days. Pretty crazy. I feel like Canada, we get a lot of weather changes, but this is next level. Kicking off the list at number 10, the Pluto slug. Back in January 2016, the New Horizons probe was sending tons of new information back from our little ex-planet Pluto. The icy plain shows a series of lines, almost like these giant space slugs, dare I say, are slowly moving across the surface of the planet. Check it out. It reminds me of the episode of SpongeBob where the gang, rides a rock across the ocean floor. Maybe Patrick and SpongeBob are delivering a pizza on Pluto, okay? They could be just in the weeds, they could be busy. This icy area of the dwarf planet is called the Sputnik Planum. Scientists believe so far the reason for all these lines is that the planet is breathing in a way. If that sounds creepy, it's because it kind of is. The planet's cooling and heating and it's kind of moving around. But we'll leave some room open for space slugs because you know what, at this day and age, you never know. I've seen enough Avenger movies, I'm like, could be space worms.
In our number 9 spot today we have the crescent Earth. Less bizarre and more downright artistic and beautiful, truly the only thing that makes this photo bizarre is its lack of popularity, as well as the point of view and how opposite of our own it is. At a first glance it looks like a photo of the night sky as seen from a sort of piece of space technology, and it looks like the photo captures a sweet crescent moon. While this makes a lot of sense, what we're actually seeing is the Earth as it rises and looms over the Apollo 14 lander. That crescent is Earth. We look like that from the moon. It completely makes sense, it's just something I had failed to think about before. If you were to camp out on the far side of the moon, because the moon and Earth are tidally locked, you wouldn't be able to see Earth. But on the near side of the moon, you'd see the Earth all the time, and through the course of about a month, the Earth would also go through phases just like the moon does, but they'd be the direct opposite of the phases people on Earth would be witnessing the moon going through, if that made any sense at all. I can't believe I had never seen this photo before because it truly is stunning. In our number 8 spot today we have the moon. This image shows a series of 3 photographs that are just a few of the hundreds taken by the Apollo astronauts. While there are many interesting photos that were taken by those on the Apollo missions, the vast majority of them are just of the moon as seen from their window. Don't get me wrong, seeing photos of the moon up close and personal is magnificent. It's very cool and it's stunning to look at, but once you see it a few dozen times in photos, perhaps the novelty wears off a bit. Of course, the same can't be said for seeing it actually in real life out of the window next to you though. Until travel to the moon becomes a regular old everyday thing like it's a commute to work, that novelty won't ever wear off, as evidenced by the extremely extensive catalog of close-up moon photos taken by the crew. It honestly is kind of nice to see though. To me, astronauts seem so cool and serious and intelligent, and while all of those things likely are very true, they're also giddy, excited humans who were clearly thrilled to be where they were. It's just humanizing, that's all I'm saying. In our number 7 spot today we have the end of the roll. This is a photo that was taken on the Apollo 7 mission, and while it was likely meant to be just a stunning photo, thank goodness it wasn't meant to include or document anything exceptionally important because well, the photo is greatly obscured by the end of the roll tape. This photo is hilarious. It appears to be of Earth, and it looks like the photo would show this beautiful white swirl spanning across the blue planet, a beautiful piece of photography, if it weren't for the rectangle taking up a third of the image, right smack dab in the middle. These people are astronauts, not photographers, and despite that, they managed to take some exceptional photos while on their missions, so I think it's fair to cut them some slack for this one. It's not like their thumb was in the way or something like that. In our number 6 spot today we have the selfie. The word selfie hasn't been around for that long, but people have been taking them for years. With adjustable views and forward-facing cameras, it's definitely gotten a lot easier, but that didn't stop Apollo 17's Ron Evans from having his hand at them, while of course in space. This photo shows about half of Ron, although it's tough to tell with him decked out in his spacesuit. Apparently he snapped this photo while he was retrieving exposed film from outside of the spacecraft. I think that means he was in the midst of a spacewalk when he snapped this selfie. That is perhaps the most badass selfie of all time. On the way back to Earth near the end of the mission, Evans did a 1 hour and 6 minute long spacewalk, so it's entirely possible that this is exactly where this photo is from. I mean, that would explain the absolute nothingness that can be seen behind him. In our number 5 spot today, we have number 2. When we hear about space missions, we often hear of the grueling work and preparations, or perhaps the science and mathematics that went into the planning, or maybe we're just there for the cool photos and interesting discoveries. But whatever it is, we normally don't hear about, either from reports or the astronaut themselves, is how on Earth they managed to use the facilities while flying through space and living in zero gravity. Well, thanks to Apollo 17, some of the mysteries surrounding it were unveiled, although this photo didn't exactly go viral. The final, for now, mission to the moon had those on board snapping shots of the plastic bags that were filled with their space pee. Also, note the device used to help collect it that is located at the top of the bag. Yeah, that little thing was actually cited as the reason women couldn't serve in the Apollo space program. You're telling me that NASA could figure out how to send people to the moon, but it was too difficult at the time to figure out the female anatomy and how a woman could pee in space? Okay, it's a little suspicious at best. In our number 4 spot today, we have the Mars eclipse. So this is more of a video rather than one single image. Well, actually it's a series of 89 different images that, when strung together, act like a video, but I digress. It was all captured by NASA's Curiosity rover as it showed us insights into what life is like on Mars. So on Earth, we have this weird coincidence that the distance ratio between the Earth and the Moon versus the Earth and the Sun is almost the same as the size ratio between the Moon and the Sun. This is why, when the Moon passes in front of the Sun for a total eclipse, it covers it completely. On other planets, namely Mars, that's not what happens. When one of the moons of Mars passes in front of the Sun, it's much smaller and it appears like this. Curiosity was able to observe a ton of these instances, which are called transits, from Mars' 2 moons, Phobos and Deimos. It's just really strange to see how things that the average person wouldn't have necessarily thought about are so completely different on other planets. Of course it makes sense and it's perfectly logical, it's just strange to see it right in front of your eyes and really take a second to think about it. In our number 3 spot today, we have the Ceres. This is a series of photographs that were taken on the Apollo 17 mission. The first in the series is another photo that has gone down in history as one of the most iconic. A photo of our beautiful planet as seen from space. I mean, come on, how stunning! We are so lucky to have this as our home. The next photo followed up the last iconic one, and while still interesting, it definitely leaves a little something to be desired. It's a simple photo of a floating engine stage. Still cool, just not as cool as the Earth one. The next photo, however, is when things go a little awry. It appears as though the next photo is someone's failed attempt at photographing the sun. It's so funny. It's just white. No one can see a thing. It's exactly what anyone would do, and I love it. The final photo in the series has whoever took the photos returning back to snap some shots of Earth. I guess they likely didn't realize that the one they already had was better than anyone could have imagined. In our number 2 spot today, we have Mimas. This is a photo that my brain can't even begin to comprehend as real. It's a photo of one of Saturn's moons called Mimas. This moon just so happens to have a 130-kilometer wide crater on it that is called Herschel. This is cool and interesting and makes this moon look absolutely fascinating, but this photo caught by the Cassini spacecraft in 2005 really brings it to a whole new level. As the sun lit up the Herschel crater, the spacecraft caught this image where we can actually see the rings of Saturn in the background. Firstly, Saturn has at least 83 moons, so snapping such a gorgeous picture of one isolated one probably isn't the easiest thing in the world, especially for a spacecraft. Secondly, some of the moons are huge. Like, the biggest of them all, Titan, is bigger than the planet Mercury. It's less massive, and I know Mercury isn't a huge planet, but still, that's pretty huge for a moon, but I guess that isn't surprising considering the size of Saturn. The rings of Saturn are mostly comprised of ice particles with smaller amounts of rocky debris and dust, and it's exceptionally interesting to see how they look even when you're up close. This photo probably isn't that bizarre, but it certainly is spectacular. And yes, you're not alone if you're sitting there thinking that this moon looks a heck of a lot like a Death Star. In our number 1 spot today, we have Alone. No, this isn't a photo from space thriller Gravity, which stars Sandra Bullock and George Clooney, but if you haven't seen it, it's a great movie and I would highly recommend it. Not necessarily the most scientifically accurate movie, but definitely anxiety-inducing. Anyway, back to the photo. This is actually a photo of NASA astronaut Bruce McCandless in 1984. I have no idea how I hadn't seen this photo ever before, as it clearly shows Bruce just roaming free from the Space Shuttle Challenger. No, obviously it wasn't the one that exploded. I had the same thought. They're different. I looked it up. He was able to do this thanks to a nitrogen-powered jetpack, which was called the Manned Maneuvering Unit, and it actually led to him being the first person to ever do a spacewalk untethered. Quite possibly the coolest and one of the most brave things ever. Like, I'd want to do it so bad, but would I risk the possibility of endlessly floating till I met a horrific death once my supplies ran out? Probably not. Bruce had some interesting things to say about the experience, however, saying, quote, "I was grossly overtrained. I was just anxious to get out there and fly. I felt very comfortable. It got so cold my teeth were chattering and I was shivering, but that was a very minor thing. I'd been told of the quiet vacuum you experience in space, but with 3 radio links saying, 'How's your oxygen holding out? Stay away from the engines,' and 'When's my turn?' It wasn't that peaceful. It was a wonderful feeling, a mix of personal elation and professional pride. It had taken many years to get to that point." Starting off this list, in our number 10 spot we have the after photo. Many of us have seen the portrait of Edwin Buzz Aldrin on the moon. It's an iconic image and has gone on to become one of the most inspiring images of all time, but what we don't see is the one that came immediately after. Maybe it's an arm, maybe it's a chest or a belly, either way it belongs to the taker of the photo, Neil Armstrong. Even the first people on the moon take accidental photos. I mean, it can't be easy in all of that gear. I can't even make a phone call with gloves on. I can't even imagine being in space, trying to snap a selfie while making history. It's nice to see the clean, polished, inspiring part of history, but it's also nice to sometimes remind ourselves that we are all just humans, and humans are silly.
Number 9. Pluto. Remember when we just kicked out a planet? Yeah, just see ya. My entire life growing up, I had to remember this 9-word jingle, and now Pluto's gone all of a sudden, and the whole thing is screwed. My very evil mother just served us nasty pancakes. Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. Now we have no idea what evil mother is dishing out. Pluto's gone. Now we have 8 planets. Gone but not forgotten, Pluto. We're still watching you from afar. Before 2015, every picture that we had of the dwarf planet was grainy. It was like a BlackBerry curve where you click it and it makes the sound like you're like, oh, didn't even sound good. But July 2015, thanks to the New Horizons spacecraft, Pluto got a glow up. We also got a close-up image of Pluto's surface. It looks like a lovely time. It's nice and calming and relaxing. 12,000 foot tall ice mountains, just a good time. Compared to Australia, honestly, Pluto does seem a lot smaller. It looks like a planet to me still, but hey, what do I know? I'm just a little guy on a bigger planet. Number 8. 20-year time lapse. I'll time lapse something for absolutely no reason. I'll just set my phone up and watch icicles melt, and I'm like, this is gonna look good in 7 hours. This next one I had to triple check to make sure it was even real. This is mind blowing. Back in 2018, the European Southern Observatory released their own time lapse. This one has been running for about 20 years, and it's images of M87. And they've been showing a slow change to the center of our galaxy around Sagittarius A. This GIF shows the movement of stars around a black hole over 20 years. Yeah, seeing this makes me feel uneasy. This observation reinforces Einstein's theory of gravity. One of these stars is orbiting the black hole at 3% the speed of light. That's really fast. Ugh, it just looks like bloop. I don't like that. I feel like I can't breathe looking at that. Oh, it's called anxiety. It's a panic attack. Number 7, the Evil Eye Galaxy. I'm pretty sure Thanos lives here, but alright, let's talk about it. The Evil Eye Galaxy, or the Sleeping Beauty Galaxy, or if you're a nerd, M64, might be one of the coolest space photos of all time. This looks like something out of a Thor movie. Gas on the inner galaxy rotates in one direction. You can tell this thing is spinning just by looking at it. That's the beauty of it. But the outer layer, however, that's spinning in the opposite direction. That's why it's on our list here today. This is odd behavior for a galaxy. Scientists theorize that the Evil Eye Galaxy is the result of 2 galaxies smashing into each other. The fascinating thing really here is that we're looking at something 17 million light years away. So this image of the galaxy, the Evil Eye Galaxy, is actually from a very long time ago. From like when Neanderthals were still on Earth. You know what I mean? That's mind-bending. That's why James Webb is such a big deal. We're gonna see very far into our past. It's gonna get pretty ugly. It's like, is that a dinosaur? What? Number 6, another interstellar object. We've mentioned Oumuamua on this channel before. Oumuamua was the first ever interstellar object to be recorded into our solar system. Back in 2017, this cigar-shaped comet was the first ever interstellar asteroid detected by humans, but cut to November 2019, Hubble Space Telescope found another one. Traveling at over 100,000 miles per hour, again, pretty fast. This interstellar comet was born from another star, so it's only just passing by, just for a hot minute, just saying hello. Just came by to say hi, peace, and leave. Look at this photo. I feel like I'm underwater, or aliens are just passing through this cosmic neighborhood. There's something eerie about this. It looks so empty. I love seeing stuff about space, but it also makes me feel like I can't breathe, so how exciting is that? Number 5, a new solar system. So when I say an interstellar comet from another star, you know, she goes to another school, this is what I'm referring to. Back in 2014, the Radio Alma Observatory in Chile got a pretty remarkable image. This is a star roughly 450 light years away, and right off the bat, it looks different. It looks like a planet from Star Wars that just got obliterated by the Empire and the dark side. But in fact, it's only just begun its space days. This is a brand new solar system, people. Look at this. It's a baby. Planets are literally forming as the dust literally settles. So many comets are now hurling through space because of events like this. That's why when we get the odd interstellar visitor, we're trying to study everything we can as fast as we can. Because this thing's like, it was blue. I think it was blue. I don't know. Did anyone get that? Number 4, Neowise. I looked in the sky everywhere for this thing, but I could not see it. I look like a crazy person, climbing bridges, looking up, making wishes and shit. If you were able to see the comet Neowise with your own Neo eyes, I don't know, I tried something. Consider yourself lucky. If you didn't get to see it, well, that's why I'm here. When the Hubble telescope took a glance at the passing comet in August 2020, even though it's 27 million miles away, NASA still learned a few things. The comet's coma, the cloud of dust and the gas that follows behind Neowise, had never been seen this close before. NASA was able to determine the nucleus of the comet was still being held together, which was pretty shocking considering how close it got to our own sun. Comets are already fragments from our past, these icy leftovers from when the solar system first formed, like what I just mentioned, and it's now on its way back to the outer solar system, but next time we'll catch it. Next time I'll see you with my own eyes. Just kidding, it won't be back for another 6,800 years. If you missed it, 0 chances ever again. You missed it. Number 3, the sun. While it's not recommended that we stare at it, the sun is pretty beautiful. Haven't seen or felt it up here in Canada for a while, but when it's around, it's pretty lovely. I'm so pale. I feel so pale. Photographer Andrew McCarthy layered together 150,000 different photos of the sun to create this 300 megapixel image for us to now awe at. I tried to load it on my phone and I literally felt my phone get warmer. I was trying to load it. I'm like, man, this is a great photo. I can actually feel it. I can feel the sun on my face through the photo. How is this possible? iPhone 8 Plus, I'm like, oh, that's why it's possible. It's not working anymore. I'm like, hello, Mr. Sun, hi. In order to not go blind or light any fires, Andrew required a special telescope with numerous filters. So if you're thinking of pointing your phone through a telescope and just pointing at the sun and looking through or whatever, just don't. That's why these guys do it. So we don't have to. Number 2, the first black hole. Back in 2019, over 200 scientists from over 20 different countries all put their big scientist brains together in order to get the first photo of a black hole. We've seen them in movies. I mean, the movie Interstellar almost gave me a panic attack. A panic attack in IMAX. Lovely. But this is real life, so it's not as glorious, but it's definitely twice as impressive. The science involved here to even make this possible is mind-bending. Right at the center of M87, the galaxy just, a mere 55 million light years away, this black hole has been ripping apart anything in sight in a galaxy in the Virgo cluster. It's far, far away, don't worry. We're not gonna, turn into spaghetti anytime soon, we're good. But how in the world did scientists even get a photo of something that sucks in light? How does this make sense? The Event Horizon Telescope is how. The Event Horizon Telescope shows us the dark center, and it's this hole that swallows up matter, of course, and it looks like a ring that you can maybe look around almost. But the light that we see here in this photo, these radio waves that are represented, that's coming from all around the black hole. Behind it, in front of it, the sides. It would actually be impossible to see with our naked eye, of course. But after a team made a virtual telescope the size of the Earth, a virtual telescope that's the size of the, yep, you got me, they were now able to see the radiation surrounding this black hole. This is something we barely understand in the science world, and the fact that we can see a blurry photo is more than we deserve. I think I see Matthew McConaughey in the bottom right there, that little blur. I think that's him. I think he's yelling Murph as loud as he can into a spacesuit for some reason. And finally, coming in at number 1, James Webb's first photo. Okay, are we ready? This is it. He took another photo. He took a selfie, and then he flipped it reverse that camera, bam, what did we get? He may have left our world on Christmas Day 2021, but James Webb has finally sent us a Christmas gift. A little late, but we'll gladly accept it. After getting settled for 48 days, literally just unfolding himself in space like a cold, tired transformer, just winding up a camera slowly for 48 days, James Webb finally sent back a photo of a distant star. Upon first glance, it looks like a cluster of stars, you know, like you accidentally hit space mode on Google Earth and you're like, what, where am I? This is actually the same star 18 times. The 18 hexagonal segments haven't aligned yet. That's a process that'll take months, but during this daunting task, NASA will test out these blurry, ugly images. I don't think ugly, they're calling it blurry or ugly. It's like pizza, good, bad, blurry, cold, it's all great. We love it all. Show us all the space photos. Come the end of April, however, that's when these pics will start changing the game. The James Webb Telescope is 100 times more powerful, it detects infrared, and we'll be able to see exoplanets. Also, if there's any oceans out there, we'll be able to search for atmospheres. This telescope is the universe's greatest spy, essentially. So make sure you're subscribed, hit those notifications, space pics are gonna be coming in hot. Let's do it. Kicking off the list at number 10, James Webb selfie. We'll kick this bizarre space list off with a space selfie, of course. The James Webb Space Telescope launched December 25th, 2021, so yeah, it was pretty recent. This thing is a game changer, truly. NASA's latest and greatest space telescope can observe infrared astronomy, and it's 100 times more powerful than the previous Hubble telescope. Although he's pretty good too, he's got some bangers in this list as well, he's got some good snapshots. We're about to see some stuff, basically. They're literally calling this thing a time machine. Blake Bullock, astrophysicist and director at Northrop Grumman Aerospace Systems, and contractor of the project, says it's the biggest, most powerful telescope in space ever. Webb can literally look back into time further than Hubble could. Hubble could see galaxies that were well on their way, but with Webb, we'll be able to detect the earliest objects in the universe. But first, let me take a selfie. About 1 million miles from Earth, in a pocket between Earth and the Sun called L2, where the gravity between both the two are balanced, James Webb is stuck, essentially. He's just stuck floating in space in between both of these gravity fields. And he has the courage to take a selfie. What a brave young little soldier. It was a dead-on photo too, right? Not like an angle from above, it was like one of those boom selfies. Like a dad's Facebook profile photo, you know, like one of those selfies. We also have the second photo that James Webb took, but you know, I'm gonna save that for number 1.
Coming in at number 9, we have telescope ghouls. Whoa, 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 look up at the top of the James Webb Space Telescope. Do you see what I see? Are these the ghosts of dead astronauts or technicians? Or maybe they're alien apparitions? This photo by NASA's Chris Gunn is incredible, and he has aptly titled it Ghosts and Mirrors for obvious reasons. So it turns out that the picture taken in the Goddard Space Flight Center's Spacecraft System Development and Integration Facility clean room is taken with a super long exposure. All the while, ultraviolet lights were being shone over the telescope to look for contamination. Now the result is this spooky picture. Sounds like a reasonable explanation, right? Some may say too reasonable. Joking, but this telescope may well capture some spooky images of its very own in the future. It's the successor to Hubble, and it's off to explore the universe in March 2021. Any Lord of the Rings fans out there, stand up. How much does this exosolar planet look like the Eye of Sauron at number 8? Like, creepily so. Did J.R.R. Tolkien know about the formal hut when he wrote The Lord of the Rings in 1937? If he didn't, perhaps he foreshadowed it. Get a load of this picture. This is Fomalhaut B in orbit around Fomalhaut. The exoplanet is also known as Dagon. It's an extrasolar object and it orbits a star that gives it its name. How far away is this terrifying eye formation? Only 25 light years. The 2012 images from the Hubble Space Telescope are terrifying. The name Dagon in mythology is a Jewish deity that represents a half man, half fish. Just a side note there for you. Coming in at number 7, did NASA capture an alien moon base? And also, did they accidentally release pictures of it? According to some conspiracists, then yeah, they did. Have a look at these and tell me what you think. Is this alien evidence? Conspiracist YouTube channel Secure Team 10 claimed that these images were proof of an alien base on the moon. The YouTube channel has 1.7 million subscribers, so a lot of people are watching their content. Their channel is filled with moon conspiracies, and they think that these images are a smoking gun for NASA. UFologist and hoax Ghostbusters Scott Brando said that the images used by Secure Team 10 were low quality and low resolution. He seemed to think that the images are just an optical illusion. Who knows though? Another classic from the Daily Express, we have alien astronauts caught on camera at number 6. Some think that Mars rover Curiosity captured aliens, others think that it's a wider spread conspiracy that humans are already on Mars. The first manned Mars mission is set to begin within the next 10 years, but some are saying that the photos taken by Curiosity and published by NASA already show that there are humans on the red planet. Some people think that these shadow images show astronauts working on the rover to repair it. Others say that the droids show humanoid-looking aliens. Now the conspiracists say that NASA didn't realize how much they were showing when the images were released into the public domain. So, is it aliens or are humans already up on Mars? If so, why would that be hidden from us? Or do these pictures have a more logical explanation? UFO conspiracist good old Scott C. Waring said that this just goes to show the public that the rover is being maintained by humans on Mars and that there are other spacecraft kept secret from the public that can carry peers to Mars in just a few minutes. You know what, Scott? I don't know about that one. Okay, these Death Eaters living out there in space terrify me at number 5. The Harry Potter fans in this video will probably be just as freaked out by this as I am. I don't like them. Get a load of what is lurking in the mist of the Karina Nebula. To me, these are straight up Death Eaters waiting to suck out my soul, but actually, they're supposed to be knots of dark molecular gas. Knots of dark molecular gas waiting to suck out my soul, right? These clouds of gas surround the Great Nebula in Karina, which used to be one of the brightest stars in the sky in the 1800s, but now it's significantly faded. This maybe lends credence to my whole sucking theory, right? Okay, fine, they probably aren't Death Eaters, but still, they're spooky. This picture freaks me out. Coming into number 4, we have the Hand of God. NASA released this X-ray image of light detected by NASA's Chandra X-ray Observatory in 2014. Can you see why they called it the Hand of God? It kind of looks like, you know. So this is actually a pulsar wind nebula, a stellar corpse that spins rapidly, firing a particle wind. NASA themselves are mystified by the shape. Alongside the image on their website, they wrote, "One of the big mysteries of this object is whether the pulsar particles are interacting with the material in a specific way to make it look like a hand, or if the material is in fact shaped like a hand." Now a lot of people do genuinely believe that this is God's mark in the universe, like the eye that cropped up earlier. Now I'm not too convinced, but I'd love to know what you think. We have a famous Mars picture that caused a stir at number 3. We have Bigfoot on Mars. Mars's now defunct robot rover Spirit captured this image in late 2007. Who this? A Rudy Nudie alien lady or Bigfoot? Either way, aliens, right? This image boosted the life on Mars discussion, with many conspiracists saying that this image was proof. NASA explained the image is simply the pareidolia phenomena. This is where humans see faces when they aren't there. Analyzing Spirit's image, if this was an alien, it'd be pretty small, according to Phil Platt of Bad Astronomy website. Anyway, NASA says it's nothing more than a Martian rock, although NASA would say that, wouldn't they? Probably because it is just a rock, right? Coming into number 2, we have this screaming skull. It's pretty terrifying. This screaming skull was another of NASA's Halloween releases, this time from the year 2000. The haunting image was taken from the orbiting Chandra Observatory and is one of a cluster of galaxies known as Perseus. You can see Perseus right here in X-ray vision. The Perseus cluster contains thousands upon thousands of galaxies, so we can't really truly comprehend this picture. It's just much more than a spooky picture than what looks like a skull. It's a lot going on there. While the image is already pretty spooky, it gets scarier when you realize that the bright spot in the X-ray is a black hole. Not to worry though, this scary skull cluster is 320 million light years away. Finally, at number 1, we have a truly iconic and somewhat infamous picture, the Viking 1 faces on Mars. This is one of the most famous NASA images out there and has been used as absolute fuel to conspiracy theorists' fire over the past 40 years. That was since the picture was taken in July 1976. The snap snap was taken by NASA's Viking 1 spacecraft and seemed to show the shadowy likeness of a human face, only this face is 2 miles long. Taken in the Cydonia region of Mars, the image was sent back to mission controllers at the Jet Propulsion Lab. At the time, theorists went wild, saying that it was evidence of an ancient civilization on Mars. Now, the image did quite look like an Egyptian pharaoh after all. NASA explained that the image was just a Martian messer with the sunlight playing tricks. NASA later went back with the Mars orbiter camera, but people simply explained the lack of face that time by saying that it was a cloudy day and the alien detail couldn't be seen. I don't know, I'm thinking it probably was just a trick of the light. Coming in at number 10, we have a ghost in Cepheus. This looks like a ghost in the ether for sure. It's actually a rather mysterious dusty curtain featuring a very faint reflection of nebula VDB152. The reddish tinge you see is ultraviolet light from a star causing a rusty looking luminescence in the nebula dust. Described as a cosmic phantom, this picture was released by NASA on Halloween in 2012 and titled A Ghost in Cepheus. This intergalactic ghost is 1,400 light years away, so arguably a safe enough distance for us to deal with. Who knows how fast this ethereal dust can travel though? Also, who knows what this dust is like up close? I don't trust it. Dust it.
In our 9th spot, we have the aliens. It seems like NASA and Area 51 might be hiding aliens. What's new? The photo I'm about to share with you is a leaked photo of aliens hidden in Area 51. The photo was taken in the 1980s and years later someone leaked it online. I don't know about you, but that looks exactly like a space alien to me. And it looks like they're running some sort of tests on them or something. Now of course, people think that this photo is fake. Go ahead, believe whatever. Just know that there are tons of individuals that believe it to be real. Plus it's never been debunked. Take what you want for that. Coming in at number 8, we have the second sun. According to astronomer Paul Cox, there is a second sun in our solar system and NASA is keeping it a secret. Why would they do that? I don't know, because they can. So Paul discovered this after using his telescope to stare at the planets. He actually live streamed him doing this, and while doing so, he pointed to a black dot which was Mercury. He said that this was the location of the second sun. He said, and I quote, "You may be asking yourself, what is that large round thing to the right of the sun? Well, that's our second sun. I don't know if you knew that we had a second sun, but there it is. It is normally hidden from view. NASA and other organizations usually hide that stuff away from us." Now, I don't know why NASA would hide this from us, but apparently they are, and there's a second sun out there. In our 7th spot, we have the SpaceX explosion. Back in 2020, a NASA worker leaked video and photographic evidence of a SpaceX explosion. NASA was furious when they found out and sent out a memo to all workers saying that they would be fired if they publicly shared photos and videos from the Space Center again. And then someone leaked that memo. Anyways, NASA was all like, nah, nothing happened, nothing exploded. Then the video surfaced and they're like, oh snap, we're caught. It started when people saw smoke coming over the space coast and were like, what's going on over there? And NASA failed to properly explain. But like I said, things got leaked and they were exposed. In our 6th spot, we have Planet X. So astronomer Paul Cox says that NASA has proof of Planet X. It's a broken planet that is behind the sun that he believes will eventually crash into Earth and wipe out all of humanity. But obviously, NASA doesn't want anyone to know this, which is why they're hiding it from all of us. And I genuinely hope that this isn't true, and that Paul's lying, and that he knows nothing, because that's terrifying. We are now at our 5th and halfway mark with the trees on Mars. A weird shot taken of Mars revealed what looked like dark trees rising from the surface. Like it straight up looks like trees and shrubs are growing there, which we know isn't possible. So then, what is it? Well, NASA says that it's just an optical illusion and it's not actually trees. But other people think that NASA is trying to already grow things on Mars, or that this is part of an alien structure. Who knows? But NASA's being hella sketchy with this photo. In our 4th spot, we have the lady on Mars. In 2007, people went nuts when the Spirit rover snapped this eerie photo on the planet. It literally looks like a human figure perched on a rock. Now NASA immediately denied this and said that, it's just a rock. But that didn't stop UFO enthusiasts. They believe that this rock is actually a female figure made by aliens, or that it is an alien. Like, look at that. How can that be a rock? Like, there's fully arms and clothing on it. I'm sorry, I don't believe it. Nice try, NASA. Better luck next time. That's a woman. In our third spot, we have these space guests. A couple of years ago, a Russian cosmonaut aboard the International Space Station noticed 3 unusual lights fly by their craft. Thankfully, they got it on film. The cosmonaut believes that what he saw and captured was indeed a UFO flying by. He said, and I quote, "5 objects appear flying alongside with the same distance. What do you think those are? Meteors, satellites, or ... The lights are in a straight line and apparently were hanging around that area for almost a minute before disappearing. He has no explanation for it besides it being a UFO spacecraft." In our second spot, we have the alien statue. In 2019, NASA accidentally leaked some photos that we shouldn't have been able to see. So they released photos taken by their Mars robot Opportunity. In one of the shots, someone pointed out that there appears to be a dark object near one of Mars's craters. It looks like this object has a long arm, a bulky chest, and 2 leg fragments. One person said, and I quote, "It looks like an actual statue. There seems to be so many anomaly stones on Mars that at some point one must admit that sometimes a rock is an ancient artifact." Whereas others believe that this is an alien's corpse that is decomposing. But what do you think? It certainly looks like an alien to me. And in our number 1 spot today, we have the alien city. So there's a theory out there that aliens do actually live on the moon. However, they inhabit the dark side of the moon, aka the side of the moon facing away from us that we can't see. Well, a man named Scott Waring found physical evidence to prove this. He obtained satellite images from the dark side of the moon and saw that the moon has structures that cast shadows. Take a look for yourself. If you zoom into the photos, you can see a bunch of weird objects on the moon's surface. That's not the normal texture of the moon. Those look like structures. So he believes that aliens are for sure on the moon and that NASA has been covering it up for years. Not only that, but the images that NASA chose to share with the public had been altered so that the objects were edited out. And then NASA added fake craters in that location. Why would they do that? Huh? That's suspicious. Yeah, that's hella sus. Starting off this countdown, we have these space monkeys. If you're an animal lover, then this one is gonna break your heart. Before sending humans into space, animals were launched into space to see how space travel would affect them. They typically chose primates for their close relation to humans. Obviously, looking back at that is hella messed up. A number of monkeys sadly passed away from these tests. I mean, the first monkey sent into space died from suffocation. There's photos of him being prepped and getting ready for space, and now looking at those photos, it's just hella disturbing. So now NASA has removed all the photos they have of their test subjects. They don't want people finding out their controversial past. Of course, you can still find these photos online today, but NASA still has tried to cover it up.
Number 9, the unicorn. Not to be confused with Unicron, although both are equally scary, I'd say. The unicorn is the closest black hole to Earth. But don't panic, it's not gonna, turn us into spaghetti anytime soon, so we're good. The unicorn gallops 1,500 light years away from Earth. It's far away, and it's also pretty small. It's a tiny black hole, so it's extremely hard to find. That's why telescopes like James Webb will come in handy, so we can identify more of these little guys. Researchers were able to find the unicorn because a near star, a red giant for that matter, had its light shifting towards something. It's always special when you see sunlight just doing this, just melting towards something. You're like, okay, let's take a look. So they named it the unicorn because it's also tucked away in the unicorn constellation, Monoceros. The fact that it's rare also inspired the name, so yeah, it's a win-win. They're like, unicorn? Wait, can we do this? This is perfect. Also, please don't turn us into spaghetti. Thank you so much. Stay away. Number 8, a new star. Our sun is around 4.5 billion years old. Not that there's anything wrong with that, she's still young at heart, but this new star over here, she's hot. This protostar, during its crazy cosmic birth, jets of gas are now whipping through space at impossible speeds, and it's beautiful. Now we get to look at it and go, wow. Thumbs up. When this material collides with the matter of the still forming star, what's created is called a Herbig-Barrow object. Hubble captured it and it is glorious. We're gonna get even more beautiful shots once James Webb warms up later on this year. So this is really, it's kind of like nothing. Just wait. Number 7, the Veil Nebula. While most subjects on this list are far away from us, the Vale Nebula you can see with a common pair of binoculars on clear conditions. Today we're going with NASA's Hubble telescope view. They got a pretty good look at this gas giant. What you see here is 5 different layers of ionized gases. This cloud is floating around 2,100 light years away. In order to get a photo of the entire nebula, it would be, well, near impossible. See, the Vale Nebula spans 130 light years wide, which is around 100 times larger than our own solar system. So yeah, binoculars ought to do it. You'll see it somewhere. It's pretty big. Number 6, total eclipse. This total eclipse was not of the heart, but it did occur back in December 2021. Not long ago at all. If you didn't see a total eclipse a few months ago, don't worry, we all missed out. I mean, unless you live in Antarctica, we all missed out on this one. This was hard to catch. For a halfway point, I figured I'd throw in a relatable, nice, yet still haunting feature. This Deep Space Climate Observatory satellite snapped a pic, and honestly, it looks like the poster of Independence Day. This is real and very scary. This massive shadow of the moon just slowly moving across the land, like the Goosebumps intro. God, it's haunting to look at. Dark spot on the move, like something out of Star Wars almost. The next total eclipse will occur April 8th, 2024. This time it'll be in Canada, US, and Mexico. All those places will go dark, so get your flashlights ready. I'm already nervous. Number 5, M64. M64, aka the Evil Eye Galaxy, aka the Sleeping Beauty Galaxy, which is a lot nicer. I think we should call it that from now on, definitely. This one might be the coolest space photos of all time. This looks like an artist made it with CGI. I feel like this is concept art from Interstellar. Oh my gosh. What makes the M64 Galaxy so impressive to look at and worthy enough to throw on this terrifying list is the way that it moves. Ooh, the way it moves is just so... Gas on the inner galaxy rotates in one direction, and the outer layer spins the, well, you guessed it, opposite way. This is odd behavior for a galaxy. Scientists theorize that the Evil Eye Galaxy, Sleeping Beauty Galaxy, is the result of 2 galaxies crashing into one another. The fascinating thing really is we're looking at something 17 million light years away. So this image of the Evil Eye Galaxy, Sleeping Beauty, is actually from a long time ago, most likely. Mind-bending, right? Space is pretty mind-bending. Also terrifying. That's why the James Webb is such a big deal. We're gonna see very far into our past, theoretically. No one really knows what's gonna happen. We're just gonna look and, oh, dinosaurs. Number 4, gamma bursts. Somebody give Bruce Banner a heads up because we got a lot of gamma. We have so much gamma. When we look at extinction level events like say, I don't know, a meteor smashing into the planet, we can bounce back from that, humans, evidently. I mean, look at us, we're doing lists now. We're like, hey, subscribe, hit that thumbs up. I mean, sure, we lost some dinosaurs along the way, but millions of years later, we're here, we're popping. But when it comes to gamma rays hitting the planet, yeah, we're not so lucky at that point. We can't bounce back from that one. If a gamma ray happened any time in our past, be it millions of years ago, we still wouldn't be here. Gamma rays happen when stars explode in distant galaxies. See, light and energy then shoots out along with gamma rays, radio waves, neutrinos, just a cosmic cosmo, all that good space stuff just shook up and then blasted at you. But then these gamma rays would travel light years through space, and if they were to hit Earth, our ozone layer would be toast, just gone forever, just like that. We would be engulfed in chemical smog forever. No bouncing back from that at any point. Or if we did bounce back from it, we'd be lizards or something, you know? We'd be lizard people. Walking around, a bunch of licky dudes, just breathing on people. That'd be okay. Number 3, supernova. For this next one, we'll be looking at Betelgeuse. And no, I don't mean Michael Keaton, although he's pretty scary. I don't want to say it 3 times, I'm keeping count just to be safe. I'm talking about the red giant located in the Orion constellation. It began to dim back in 2019, which is not a great sign. Its decay would be quite noticeable here on Earth. For example, the last time a star went supernova and we were able to observe it, the last time was 1604, and that was the Kepler star. It was beautiful and bright for weeks. Even during the day, we could still see it. All day long, people are like, that's gotta be pretty annoying, huh? Can't wait for that one. But when Betelgeuse finally dims out of existence, you have to wonder if we're far enough to be safe. Which sunscreen is good for solar flares? You know what I'm talking about? Like, I freckle up as is. I'm screwed if this happens. Scientists agree that we need to be much closer for the radiation to actually cause harm, but scientists also tell us quite often about these wandering stars and how black holes will just appear out of nowhere. So who really knows? Betelgeuse. Number 2, the sun. While it's not recommended we stare at it, the sun is pretty beautiful. Living in Canada, we're just now seeing it maybe a little bit, just a tad, fingers crossed. No, not really at all, I guess. It's a terrible idea to look at the sun, especially through a telescope, so we don't recommend that at all. Thankfully, we have photographer Andrew McCarthy to help out. Andrew layered together 150,000 different photos of the sun to create this 300 megapixel image for us to safely look at. I opened this photo on my phone and my phone literally got hot. I was like, wow, this is a great photo. I can actually feel it. It's so nice. Next time you're outside and it's hot, just remember that this scary thing is floating above you. Think of that next time you're getting your tan lines. In order to not go blind or, light any fires in his home, Andrew required a special telescope with numerous filters. So if you're thinking of pointing your phone or telescope at the sun today, just don't do that. It's like the magnifying glass trick with the sun. Yeah, just fires 101. It's all bad. Don't even try. And finally, number 1, James Webb. Our boy James Webb. What's he doing? What's he up to right now? Let's always check out on him. I told you I'd be back with more. While we patiently wait for James Webb to look deeper into our cosmos, I figured I'd leave you on a fun one. Also kind of scary though. Both the James Webb Space Telescope and the European Space Agency's Gaia spacecraft both orbit the Earth and the Sun's Lagrange point 2. So they both drift in between the two space giants, and on February 18th, a month ago, literally, like this was so recent, Gaia actually managed to get an image of James Webb, just hanging out. Now look, I thought deep sea photos were hard to look at and like scary. This is another level. This is scary. Check it out. Around 930,000 miles away, James Webb just sits there and floats. And he waits to take photos of life and just anything. Just a little photographer, just floating out there. Very little reflected sunlight came Gaia's way, and Webb therefore appears as a tiny faint speck of light in Gaia's two telescopes without any details visible. That's the official statement on finding James Webb. They're like, well, it was right there. We saw it. It was just little. This spacecraft also isn't meant to be a telescope, in case you're wondering. It has a sky mapper on board, but the Gaia is originally meant to track celestial objects' positions and distances, all that, technical jargon. Imagine James Webb taking a photo back. It would be so HD. It's like 8K. He's like, turn around. What?